fountain pen friendly paper, and all the things related to the accessories that you need to make the ink show up best. So if you guys are watching this live, please feel free to comment below. If you're watching later, you can ask questions and I'll get back on here and answer them. So let's start out with sizes. I'm here in the store today and we're going to talk about how the sizing systems work traditionally in paper outside of the US. So in Europe and Asia, the paper sizing systems work differently. Naturally, we in the US had to just, do our own thing. So I hope that you guys will enjoy this video. First, we're going to talk about sizing. Also, that my neighbors are a gym, and you can hear the people in the parking lot sometimes playing loud music. There's not a lot I can do about it. It seems like they're hanging out today. Yep. It'll distract me more than it will y'all. So let's talk about systems and sizing. So the way the sizing systems works, either in A or in B when it comes to the European and the Asian community sizing. So you start out with an A, which is a very, very large piece of paper, right? It's going to be not just a paper, but it's a paper system. So A0 is the original size. You fold it in half and you have an A1. And we're talking the equivalent of 4 A4s. So you fold that A1 in half, you get an A2. You fold the A2 in half, you get an A3, 3 folds. You fold that A3 in half and you get an A4. And that is going to be this. So here's an A4. Close to an 8.5 by 11 in the US sizing. So, right, this is half of the size of an A3. 2 of these make an A3. 4 of these make an A2. Here is an A5. So you have A5, 2 of which will make an A4. So A4, and then half of that is an A5. Half of A5 is A6. And then we could go down and down and down. But I just thought I'd show you these 3. Hopefully it will help you. And then we can go smaller and we do here's a B6 right here, which is kind of my go-to size. And here is a B7. Same principle. 2 of these equal 1 of these. So right here. Does that make sense to you guys, those who are interested in the fountain pen friendly papers? So if I haven't explained that part well, you can just reply in the comments and help me out here. Then we'll talk about the quality of those papers and what makes it fountain pen friendly. So if you want to talk about quality of paper, you need to look at coating and you need to look at the amount of product per square inch. So for example, you have 80 GSM, 100 GSM, 120 GSM, and that's going to be just how thick and how compacted that paper is, and it's paper weight essentially. So let's talk about a few of the favorites that I have that we find fountain pen friendly that we've tested. This is going to be Irriful, which is a newer paper, and I have a system where I put it in you can see the hole punch. We hole punched it ourselves so that it could go into a disc bound planner. This is Irriful, and I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but it's a sheen to the ink. This is Medusa from Octopus, and it's a very sheeny ink. It's purple, but the way the coating works on this paper, it allows it to sheen like a green gold. And this one allows for a purple blue with some shimmer. You can see here, it did not bleed through. You can ever so slightly see through it, but that's partly because we have so much lighting going on. There you go. So this is going to be the Irriful paper out of Japan. This is going to be the Midori, and Midori comes in several types. Midori paper I also have in that same notebook because we were testing a lot of different papers. You can see I took markers to it, and then I took some fountain pen friendly inks that tend to have what we call sheen. And sheen is where when the ink lays on top and as it dries, it crystallizes and affects an alternative color. And in this case, it was just a little bitty amount. I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's definitely sheen there. This would be a blue, but it sheens to a purple pink. And you can see that it did not bleed through. You can kind of see through. This is just a smudge that I made that's not part of it. So you can see that this is fountain pen friendly paper, and you can see the sheen. So this would be a standard Midori paper. Midori is one of the common brands that we like to use here, and this is not the cotton version. I'll show you the cotton version of this paper so that you can see it as well. Let me find it. There we go. So Midori cotton is going to be a little bit more textured. You guys can't see it, but we can feel it. So when you have a cotton paper, it's going to absorb a little bit more, but it's also going to have a tighter weave. And when you have a tighter weave, the ink isn't going to go through, spread, feather, and go all the way down to the other side of the page. So you won't see it showing up on the other page. Let's see, where's one that it would. I'll find some bad paper in a second to show you. So we have cotton Midori, and we have standard Midori. And I used markers so that you can kind of see and compare. I used sheening inks, which are notoriously difficult on poor quality paper, so that you guys can tell. And I hope that you can see it. All right. And then this one is, these two are, I used one that's called Venta Blue Blood, and it's an ink that we carry. It's made in the Philippines. So these are two different types of paper from the same company, but they're still very good, high quality, fountain pen friendly paper. Then I have what's called Usari paper. It's a little bit more smooth. Usari is another Japanese type of paper, and you can see that it too held up really well. You can see a standard ink, and then this ink has that sheening effect. Can you guys see that? Kind of cool. And on paper that has like a really nice close tight weave to it and nothing gets through, you're going to see more of that sheeny effect. And again, this should be blue, but the sheen is so strong that it makes that purpley pink color. And this is Usari paper. We have it in loose leaf and in notebooks. It's made by Nakabayashi notebooks, and they also make inks. So Nakabayashi makes ink and paper, and they are out of Japan. This comes in A4s, A5s, B5s. It comes in side-bound, top-bound notebooks, as well as lined, dotted lined. And this is a really fun option. And it's a really smooth paper, and it is quite weighty and thick. Here's Clairefontaine. Clairefontaine is a French paper, and again, it's one that I had in my little notebook that I use for testing paper. And you can see that I used the marker, and you can see the sheeny ink right there. How it kind of reflects the light, giving the, instead of the blue color it should be, it gives the color that is the sheen effect. So in general, it should be a kind of a closer to a royal blue, but you don't see that. And then I did purple and pink markers. You can see that it did not bleed through the notebook paper. And this is Clairefontaine. Clairefontaine is a European company. It's out of France. They're quite well known, and they make we have a whole fixture full of their notebooks. So they do wire bound, they do glue bound, they do binding of different types, and then they have specialty covers, and they even have loose leaf, and they have letter writing paper. So, and that is Clairefontaine. It's another one that we keep and we consider to be fountain pen friendly. So this is the notebook that I was referring to. It's got all kinds of papers in here. And if you guys are not interested in fountain pen friendly notebook papers, then you're probably in the wrong space. I'll just mention that. for you guys that are communicating. So this notebook paper is super cheap, so you can see that everything bled through and went to the back. Can you see that? So this is standard 20 pound printer paper, and it went right on through the front, from the front to the back. And this is why you don't want to use this on something that is a little bit higher quality product. Like if you want to send out a letter or a communication to somebody, you may want to have something a little higher quality and a little bit nicer than that 20 pound printer paper. And this is why. When you actually use the handwriting and write on it, it bleeds through and it spreads and it feathers. So I have 3 different kinds of Tomoe River notebook paper. And some of it is fountain pen friendly and some of it is not. So let's talk about the 2 different versions that we currently can get our hands on, that most of us can get our hands on. This is the new Tomoe River. So the new Tomoe River, it still does all the things that the old one did. So Tomoe River, previously made by Tomogawa and now made by Sanzen. Both are distributed in multiple ways. One of them is the Sake Technical Company, and so you'll find bound notebooks made by them, but the company who actually makes the paper currently is Sanzen. The original maker was Tomogawa. So this is the new Tomoe River, and a lot of people find it to be inconsistent. So sometimes you'll get a good batch, sometimes you won't, and we've seen this in the past year with the planner community in particular. So you can kind of hear it. It's a thin paper. It's got a thin coating on there and minimal ghosting. This is ghosting when you can kind of see it, but it didn't bleed through. Here's the original Tomoe River right here. And I don't know if you can tell, but it has a different sound to it, different crinkliness to it than the newer stuff. And it feels different. Whenever you're writing on it, there's a little bit different feeling to it. It feels a little bit less crisp. And then here's the 68 gram Tomoe River, which I'm just gonna put right here for you guys. 68 gram Tomoe is the heavier one, but you can see that strong sheen on the paper. So the handwriting comes out with this really cool sheeny effect, which is what a lot of people are interested in. But it is thicker and it is crispier. So this is the 68 gram Tomoe versus the 52 old and new, which is what I just showed you guys. And let's see. I actually tried some papers that I hadn't traditionally found to be helpful in my fountain pen friendly paper journaling process. So I used this one called TUL, which you can get at Office Depot, and it ended up being pretty fountain pen friendly, and it did not bleed or feather, so that was kind of nice. You can see the effect that it had. And so it's tulle, I guess is what it is. It's backwards to you guys, I think, but you get the general idea. And it didn't, dang it. It didn't feather or bleed or go through in any way. So that was kind of a plus that was unexpected from a mass-produced office supply company, because typically that kind of paper is not going to be fountain pen friendly. Here is the original Leuchtturm, which you can find anywhere. That I was trying to think of how some people pronounce it. So it's a German pronunciation, but you can see Jack Frost has some shimmer going on and a little bit of sheen, but it does go through. So part of it is ghosting, part of it is completely bleeding through, if you guys can tell. And I had used an ink that should sheen. So then Leuchtturm started making a higher quality notebook paper for those of us who like the fountain pen friendly option, and it doesn't have that same effect. It is a lot better quality. Then we have Blackwing paper. Blackwing paper, which is the Blackwing pencils fame, tends to not be super great as far as this goes. It does show a little bit of sheen, but not a lot. You can see it at the edges, what we call a halo effect, instead of going through and through. There's Roll-On, which I found to be not fountain pen friendly. Same with Smitten on paper, which is, it is actually made in the US. If I can get this to close. And then here is some playing around that Anna Reinert did. This is her writing. She had been playing around with the French Duotone newsprint 50 pound. And it actually held up pretty well. You can see all the different writing that she did on it. And that was kind of nice to have that. So you can see the differences. And let's go to some that I found to not be fountain pen friendly or fountain pen friendly. I was testing out a planner called Laurel Denise, which I actually ended up using this year for work related purposes. So I'm using a Laurel Denise, and it is fountain pen friendly, and the sheen, you can see the sheen, I think. Yeah, there you go. You can see the sheen through it, and it held up to every kind of nib. There it is. Not going through the page. Then I tested this one called AMW Planner. She's out of Dallas. And it doesn't feather, so it doesn't spread. The ink doesn't just spread out after you write with it, and that was a plus. On the larger nibs, though, it does feather, but just not, not feather, it does ghost through, but not completely. And so you can also see that we were able to get some of that sheen effect with it. And that was the AMW. Can you guys kind of see it? I don't know if you can or not. Let me see if I can take this apart and so you can kind of see what's happening here with it. I don't know. It's hard to get that to show. Here we go. You guys can see it now. The sheening effect. So you can see each of the writing. How fun it is. And the Venta Bisparis is a dark color anyway, so it's kind of hard to tell. But it works out just fine. So she has dated and undated planners, and again, she's out of Dallas, and this AMW planner. Real sweet girl, and was so glad that she let us test her notebooks. Because it is nice to find a semi-local person, because we are here in Arkansas, and I do see her periodically at different planner events. So shout out to her. And let's see what's next. Leela Journals. So Leela Journals, she was using some 160 pound paper. We had no problems with her paper. It held up really nicely. It's 160 pound, so it's really, really thick. The thing was, it was a more narrow paper, so I had to attach it to something so that we could keep it in my little notebook. You can see all the different inks that we tried out with it, so that was kind of fun. We did fines, mediums, and broads and different things. This is probably the system we'll actually go to using for testing purposes. And Archer and Olive. So Archer and Olive, it didn't bleed through, but it also doesn't showcase the properties that a lot of us like. If we're fountain pen friendly, notebooky people. So you can see that I tried some shimmer. Shimmer worked just fine. The Andrada should be what we call a sheeny ink, and there's no sheen. So if you want a flat color and you're not worried about having some of the kind of fun effects of shading and sheening, then this Archer and Olive will work fine for you, because it does not bleed through. Worked out really well, other than the fact that it just doesn't show the sheen. So Archer and Olive notebooks, nothing wrong with them. If you wanted a dated planner in them, I'd go for it if you're not interested in the sheening inks. there you have that. Let's see, what else have I got? I'll show you guys the next one. Okay, so Clairefontaine made a sketch notebook. And so the sketch notebook from Clairefontaine, it also shows off what we call the sheen. And again, the sheen is just where the ink sit on top and crystallize, creating this reflective effect. And that's where you get the sheen. So it's just the dye particles being so saturated and so heavy, they dry slow enough that it crystallizes, and you'll see that effect from those dyes. And you can see that it did not go through. And that is the Clairefontaine 90-pound sketch paper. So that's kind of a cool thing. And then I'll show you guys what I've been doing. I use a Midori notebook in a Midori planner. So I have two planners. I use the Laurel Denise and I use the Midori for this year. This is my go-to, it goes everywhere with me notebook. I have stuck with the Midori for probably the last 5 years for my personal life. And I fill it up, use it routinely. And I'm about to start my June setup, which is what prompted me to go ahead and do this video. So you can see that I'm about to start June, but this thing is well loved. I'm gonna have to figure out, I feel like these little tabs are thinner than I would like, and they're starting to curl up. So I've started the June, laying everything out. You can see that this says forget perfection, let's just make progress sticker. And then this is hope. This is on my grandson's birthday. I have a special needs grandson. And then this is stay fearless, and just different things that I needed to keep up with. And then I'll go ahead and do the weekly layout. Like Jasmine will return from vacation. I'm getting ready to put some things in there, like I'm having to travel to Houston at the end of the month. So I'll go ahead and fill those up in these squares. I really like having these squares for my layout design. And again, I'll do this for next year too. But you can see the empty spots ready to be filled. And then at the back of this, there's empty spots. And for me, there's these little tear out things that you can use. And I think those are kind of fun. I don't actually ever end up using them, but it's just kind of cool to have these little fun squares to take up space. And then, like, I do things like have my Marriott card number, and not my card number, but my ID number in case I have to go to a hotel in an emergency and I can't remember. I have like my known flight, my TSA flight, that kind of thing in here. And my American Airlines and all that good stuff. But you can see how it works. So this, and then I'm currently testing a new system. It's the 6-ring binder, which is more common in Japan. And I stuck my Midori cotton paper in it. And you can see it's the 6-ring. I did the A5 size. And this is the cotton. And it's lined on one side and not on the other. And then I'm also testing out these are the monthlies, but I actually just put quotes in there. Like this one's a Martin Luther King quote. I'm just using it to test out the Tomoe River paper, since there have been so many batches that we just weren't confident in. This one is made by Reime, Da Vinci Reime, and I'm really happy with this notebook, and I'm actually probably going to continue carrying it as my journal. I'm pretty happy with it. So the Reime paper, and what I actually will probably continue to do is my gratitude, because I do a gratitude daily in my current journal, and I'll probably divide in half and just do quotes or things that interest me, and this part kind of divided it in half. So I guess it's a Franken journal is what you'd call it. So I have a few things in there related to stickers and notebooks, things that we're testing. So I hope that this video has been helpful to you guys, and that if you have any questions, feel free to ask or email us. You can find us at vaness1938.com, or here in Little Rock, Arkansas at our retail space. And you can shop with us 24/7. If you email us at vannessonline@gmail.com, we'll get back to you within about 24 hours. And we would love to hear from you and hear from you about topics that we can cover. I used to do videos, got out of the habit. Now I'm trying to get back into it. And this seemed like an easier way so that I can kind of get a routine going. If you guys want to come by the store, you can try these things out. And in person, I'll let you test out all this paper. In the month of June, June 14th, we will be having Pen Club here at the store. That's 5320 South Shackelford. And you guys, if you have other topics, please let me know. Oh, thank you. It's good to see you guys. And again, give me some pointers on things you'd like for me to cover. Paper's been a heavy topic this year, especially with me going to some planner conferences, and I realized how many companies are making poor quality paper and putting them in planners. So I thought I would talk about it. Anyway, you guys, I'll see y'all again. Maybe we'll do this again next week. Bye.